Thank you, Mr. Sanyal. Thank you so much for the long introduction and the kind words. Before I start, I must say privilege was mine to work with you and not the other way around. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Vikas. I work with KPMG's government advisory practice. At KPMG, we have been working with government of India, we've been working with state governments, and we've been working with governments around the world on the matters concerning citizen service delivery. So while Krishnan raised some relevant questions, he provided some answers. I would like to add some questions to that. I would like to provide some answers, and I would like to go behind the curtains on what actually ails us as a country. Why aren't we able to provide the kind of service delivery we actually want to provide? Before we start, let's have a look at the kind of apparatus that we have collected for ourselves. We have been spending a huge amount of time, money, and energy on e-governance. So today, the e-governance budget exceeds more than 30,000 crore, the kind of expenditure which has been done. We have more than 500 agencies around the country at central level, state level, sub-state level, who are bearing this flag for e-governance. And when I say 500 agencies, I'm not including private sector in this. I'm just talking about the state agencies at departmental level, sub-departmental level, municipal levels, or panchayat levels, or whatever. We have 27 MMPs, and we were supposed to have 1 lakh CSCs, which were supposed to help us in providing these services through e-delivery means. Our budget spend is increasing day by day, year by year. We are allocating huge money towards e-governance. And still, we have citizens in line, even today, not citizens online. The target was citizens online, not in line, not in queue. But I think we are still a bit far away from there. Some services have come online. Some services are being delivered using e-means. Some services are being requisitioned using e-means. But overall, our report card doesn't look that good. The reason being, we have so far not done a transformation the way we look at service delivery. The kind of orientation we have within government and even outside government towards service, I think is still a bit lacking as far as the developed world is concerned. Let's not blame the government alone on that. When we call up our Airtel call center, when we call up our Vodafone call center, the kind of service delivery we get, even for information, is pathetic going by normal standards of services. So as a country, as a nation, as a society, probably service orientation is yet to fully settle in. We have been trying to talk about that. We have been trying to infuse that into our system. But we still got a long way to go. The idea was empowerment of citizens, but that is yet to happen. Idea was participation of citizens in governance. We have made some progress on that, but we are still far away from what we thought we were going to be. We wanted to save time and money for ourselves, but so far I don't think we have saved too much time and too much money for ourselves. Rather, we have been investing a lot of time and money into e-governance initiatives, and the outcome till date is probably slow and gradual. Maybe one day we'll reach where we wanted to, but today we are still far away from there. The different phases for e-service delivery or e-delivery services, as we all know, start from basic information of web to fully interacted, seamless, fully integrated service delivery. So there are some intermediate steps like dynamic website, interactive website, transactions, and then fully interactive, fully integrated, wherein I as a citizen should be able to log into a portal. And then from there, in terms of the lifestyle services, the way it's called, right from birth to death, I should be able to pinpoint over there. I shouldn't be required to go to 20 different websites or 20 different departments, and then going there, I have to go to 20 different sub-departments in each of those departments. That's not e-service delivery the way it should be. Let's have a look at what's happening around the world. I'm not so sure whether fonts are visible or not. In purple are the countries, around 94 countries. This is a study conducted by the UN in around 194 countries. So around 94 countries are providing e-service delivery for up to 33% of services that governments need to offer. If you look at green, 77 countries are providing up to 66% services using e-means, and there are 22 countries in the world which have gone beyond 67%. And I don't think we need to put a price on guessing where we stand. Definitely very clearly in the purple. We are still in that 0 to 33% range. UN has not clearly mentioned a figure against India. I don't know the reason, but probably I don't think we would have even 15 to 20% services online today. If you look at Europe, there's a very interesting characteristic which emerges out. While the countries in European Union are geared up to provide services using e-means, citizens are not lapping that up. So a contrast. So on one side, we have governments who are struggling to provide services online. On other side, we have governments who have provided services online, but citizens are not willing to do it online. And there are multiple factors for that. The first factor, prime most factor, which emerges out is that probably even to go and avail service in a physical form is not very difficult over there. So there's not much incentive to go on e-service unless you want to avail some service remotely. Second is the ease of use, and third is the cost of that. So probably some kind of paradigm shift is there. Coming to expectations that citizens have in terms of e-service deliveries and the kind of imperatives it imposes on us as so-called e-gov intelligentsia, that what we need to do. When a citizen looks for a service delivery, he wants a standardized service delivery. He doesn't want, I have to go to 15 different websites with 15 different colors, 15 different navigation styles, 15 different level of services. He wants a standardized service delivery across for all his needs, at least for some of his needs. Ease of accessing services from home, from office, from CSC, from any kiosk, wherever, 24/7. Multiple service delivery channel. It's not that I want to avail it only from my laptop. If I don't have my laptop, can I go to a CSC? If there is no CSC, can I do it on my mobile? So these are basic prerequisites of expectations that citizens have today. That when we talk about e-delivery, it should have multiple mechanisms, it should have multiple channels, and I should be able to choose my channel myself. Now, what imperatives does it impose on government? The first and foremost, re-engineering. Re-engineering does not mean bringing about a massive change in what we are doing. It's just about some gradual change, removing some bottlenecks wherever they exist. As Prakash rightly said, if we think e-governance, re-engineering is about changing the way we have been functioning for last 100 years or 50 years, no. It can't happen in the next 6 months or 12 months of our project duration. It's about bringing those small changes which actually are impediment in service delivery and then going about doing this service delivery. Second is we need to very clearly define who will own what, who will be held responsible for what. In case the delivery is not happening, who is responsible, who will be penalized, who will be accountable, who will be accountable for accuracy of data, who will be accountable for accuracy of records. And of course, institutionalized capacity building is required, because while we have examples wherein some individuals by way of their grit and determination were able to do something, but was that grit and determination good enough to sustain the initiative? The challenges that typically happen in e-service delivery are one-stop solution requirement of a citizen transcending departmental boundaries. As I said, citizens in advanced economies today don't hop from website to website. They just log into the government website and they start navigating from there onwards, and services are there at the click of the mouse. Second is citizen-centered design and approach. Today, some of our websites which actually offer citizen service delivery through online means are not very easy to navigate, because they are designed with the philosophy of inside out, wherein the department thinks about itself, what it can put online, how it can put it online, rather than looking at from citizen perspective, that how citizen wants to view those services online. Security, privacy remain utmost primary concerns for most of citizens. I don't know about others, but today I actually feel a bit jittery when I think about my UID data being stored in a facility about which I don't know much. Adequate infrastructure, we have been investing a lot in infrastructure, but have we leveraged that? So adequacy is not only spending money on hardware, it's actually leveraging the hardware and software that actually has been bought, using that functionality fully, exploiting it fully, and then moving on to next generation, not merely buying boxes. Talking about digital divide, do all the citizens in the country have access to online means today? No. Not even 25%. So what happens to those 75%? Should government focus only on the 25% who have access to online means, or should we focus more on 75%? And either way, what happens to the other half of it? And more than anything else, when we talk about e-delivery of services, it's not merely that you are introducing an element of e over there. The whole service delivery concept has to undergo a transformation. In view of those challenges, look at our current scenario. Do we have a service orientation built in into our system as on date? I don't think it's there to the right level, to the required level. Do we have our backend ready? We have been focusing a lot on e-delivery of services. The prime most requirement for that is backend. If we talk about the prime most example of e-delivery of services in India, that I think would be railway reservation online. In some countries, it may not fall into e-governance, but in India, railway being a government subject and being a very, very important subject to the extent we have Ministry of Railways over there. So let's look at railway reservation. You can go online, reserve your tickets, cancel tickets, pay money, get a refund of money. But look at the time railways took to bring it to that stage. They started investing into their backend and IT 25 years back. So they had a PSU, CMC, they collaborated with them, domain knowledge was there. On something as simple as Fortran, codes were written, tables were formulated, and they set their backend in order first. And they took almost 20 years before they opened up that backend for access by you and me for online transaction. So they've invested in backend, they invested in their internal capacities, they invested in their own internal service orientation, and then they opened up the world for all of us to go and start doing transactions. So maybe we don't need those 20 years in today's scenario, but definitely we do need those 20 months or 20 weeks to first invest into our backend, to first put our processes right, to first train our people internally, that once we start automating things, when we start doing some kind of re-engineering, how their responsibilities would change, how their roles would change, and what kind of demand would come onto them from citizens. Very, very important. At the same time, we need to talk about citizen capacities also. Citizen capacity would range from bringing awareness about what's happening, what all is available, and how to actually use that. I'm sure there's still so many services which not many of us are aware of. Despite being in the domain of e-governance for almost 8 years now, every second week or third week, I discover a new service on the net, on some government department website. So awareness has to be there and the capacity to use. Digital divide needs to be taken care of. CSCs, which were envisaged as a concept to overcome the limitation of digital divide for the people who don't have online access or who don't have capacity to go online in terms of literacy or knowledge. CSCs was supposed to bridge that gap, but have CSCs bridged those gaps actually? Are CSCs actually providing G2C services, or have they merely become a photocopy center or a telephone bill paying center or a railway reservation center? A step forward by government in terms of enforcing, in terms of encouraging departments across central and state governments into going into an e-delivery service mode is electronic service delivery bill. The bill says all the government departments within a year of within a span of 5 years from the notification of the act have to bring all services online, but for the services which cannot be brought online. In some cases, 3 years relaxation is there, so some departments can take 8 years for some services, but not all. And a penalty is envisaged in case a department fails to live up to that promise. But what we need over there is, we have lots of acts in the country, we have lots of legislation in the country, but what applies there applies here also. Once the act is there, we need to check, is the act actually carrying any meaning? Is it actually being enforced? Is someone monitoring that? Is someone actually checking, are things moving in the direction they're supposed to move? I'll skip on this in the interest of the time. Certain key prerequisites before I end, when we talk about e-delivery of services. First of all, awareness and literacy. So users for whom these portals are meant, users for whom this backend is being prepared, users for whom all this money is being spent, actually need to be aware of what all is available to them, how and where, and they should be having at least that much level of literacy, either to access services on a laptop or computer or through a CSC or on their mobile. Mobile is a great medium today. There's no reason why we can't offer some services. Let's talk about disaster management. The hardware is there. If in coastal areas we distribute handsets having a red beacon on the handset, or a key which can start flashing red when there's a disaster, the signal is just leave this place. So that can actually be done. The point is, are we applying ourselves to it, or are we just saying, since people are there's a digital divide existing among us, since everyone is not literate, so we can't go to everyone. Second, feedback mechanism. Having put these systems in place, having put these services in place, are we actually checking how well these services are delivering? What are the bottlenecks citizens are facing? Is the speed an issue? Is service delivery only a glamorized layer for service requisitioning, wherein I send in my request, but the process still takes as much time as it was taking? Is there a tracking happening on my request? We need to talk about that. Data needs to be available after cleansing and based on some business standards. We can't just dump data from manual records to computerized records. That will not carry any meaning. We would need to do some policy and legal level changes, because when we talk about e-delivery of services, certain documents which today require a physical stamp or seal would need to be done away with. We need to introduce more and more mechanisms to do away with those things. We need to build in adequate training and capacity building in our organizations, because as systems change and as we introduce new models of services, our people will need to be aware of those model of services. We will need to have adequate infrastructure. As I said, probably we are spending a lot on infrastructure, but adequacy has got nothing to do with availability. Adequacy is more about leveraging what we have bought, what we have spent money on. We need to be continuously checking on what is usable, what is non-usable. Having enabled a service once, can that service continue throughout its lifespan? No. We need to introduce some changes in those services as and when changes are required. We would need to effectively manage the information behind those services and in front of those services. And we need to ensure efficiency, transparency, and reliability of the services. It's very easy to attract people to a portal, but if the portal is not reliable and people run away, it's not easy to bring them back onto that portal. Thank you so much. With that, I come to the end of the presentation. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer that.